Okay, hi everyone. Jen here. In this training, I want to cover the topic of automation tools versus virtual assistants. And the reason I've created this training is partly because I get the question often, can I use automation? Is automation worth it? And can I basically replace a whole marketing function with different automation tools? So I wanted to kind of dig into different automation that are common and their utility and some of the strengths and weaknesses of them. And then also talk about them in terms of what's also possible with virtual assistants. Who this training would be most useful for is B2B consultancies and agencies. And the reason I say that is because LinkedIn and email is the place where you're going to find your leads, and LinkedIn and email is something that you can easily systemize and use either with automation or with virtual assistants. Now, for this also to work, you need a proven offer. So it's not so useful to be talking to you right now if you're just starting out and you're just testing an offer. You don't want to move to an automation tool or be outsourcing to a virtual assistant. If you're just starting out, you want to be doing it yourself. And also you want an offer that's worth 5K or more to make it worth your time to be putting the money into this kind of thing. If you have an offer that's worth less than that, then you probably need higher volume to sell in order to reach your monthly goals, in which case there'd be other ways of reaching those goals. Probably paid ads would be better for you. So if you have a consulting high ticket offer, then this training will be helpful for you. Typically, if you've got a proven offer, you'd be getting clients. So you'd be getting clients through other methods. So maybe inbound leads, SEO, content marketing, paid ads, and primarily by referrals. So most consultants I talk to get their business probably 95% of the time by referrals and word of mouth, but don't really have a LinkedIn or cold email system in place. So this training is for you as well. Now, for this to work, you also do need your decision makers to be on LinkedIn and findable via cold email. So there are some demographics that really don't use LinkedIn very much. So bricks and mortar businesses that reach the general public tend to not have a LinkedIn presence. So things like your hairdressers, your plumbers, corner stores, things like that, they just don't need to be using LinkedIn. But most white collar services are present on LinkedIn, and most roles in companies, people have a profile. And then if they have a profile on LinkedIn and they have a web presence, then they're findable via cold email, and so therefore reachable via cold outreach. This would also work for you if you are able to handle your own sales calls. Either that, or you have a sales rep or an internal business development lead who's able to handle your calls, because automation and virtual assistants are able to bring top of the funnel leads to you and be able to even go to the point of appointment setting. However, really, you don't want to be outsourcing sales calls to a virtual assistant. You certainly can't automate that process. So you need an expert. You either need yourself or a professional sales rep or an internal BD lead to be able to handle those conversations with intelligence. And also, it's for you if you just want more leads via LinkedIn and cold email, and you can see that there's an opportunity there and potentially you're using it a little bit, but not enough, and you'd like to kind of systemize and streamline that process. There's several options with B2B outreach using LinkedIn and cold email. The first option is to just manually do it yourself. So that includes researching leads, creating lists on Sales Navigator, or creating email lists. Then you have to validate the emails to make sure that they're good. Then you also need to send enough connection requests every week to be reaching the right number of people and replying to messages, booking calls, and following up leads. So that can very easily become a full-time job, a 40-hour-a-week job, which obviously if you're the founder or owner of your company, that's pretty hard for you to fulfill. The next step to save you a lot of time on the above manual outreach is to automate pieces of work. So you do still need to be a human combining element. So you might need to research the leads, but you could bulk validate those leads, for example, or you could bulk send messages. And then there's different automations and tools that help you book calls and things like that. Really, there's just like blocks of work that can be automated, and then you're the human that kind of puts them together, a bit like links in a chain. Also, automation can be a little bit buggy and can have errors. So for example, if you're sending an email blast to 100 people, that would give dynamic placeholders. So insert their name or job title or company. Sometimes these things can be flawed and faulty. So you need to kind of dive in and stop a campaign if it's not working and fix incorrect errors. Although automation is one way of doing it yourself, but just saving you big chunks of work by kind of getting a bot to do that piece of work for you. The third way of doing it is to outsource it. So you can outsource it to a teammate, or you can outsource it to a virtual assistant. And a virtual assistant is, in my view, the most cost-effective way of delegating these tasks and freeing up your time. Whether you outsource it to a local assistant, maybe an intern or a junior staff member, or offshore it to a virtual assistant. Of course, there's some time involved in training and managing that person until they're competent, but very quickly they can be independent if you have a fluid process. So these are the kind of options, I guess, and we can weigh them up and decide which one is the best for you. Different types of automation tools that I've tried, and there's been many of them, tried many, is I've tried AI generated personalized lines. That can be quite pricey, but if you're sending a lot of emails, obviously personalizing each of them yourself is way too time consuming. So $99 a month is quite cost effective if you just want to save yourself like hours of personalization. I've also tried personalized image or GIF creators. So what they do is they insert an image into a message, an outbound LinkedIn or email message, and they can also personalize that. So for each, it will be the same image for each email, but they will personalize it with that person's name or their logo or something, even that person's profile picture into the image or into the GIF to give it a little bit of novelty and a little bit of like, I guess it's a bit of pattern disrupt. And when people are getting lots of emails and lots of LinkedIn messages, to get a personalized is quite creative and interesting. So I experimented with that. Not cheap, but creative and interesting. Now, email cleaning and validation is a big one. Depending on the number of emails you send every day, it can be varied. Email cleaning is quite cost effective. It's like point something of a cent per email. But of course, as soon as you're hitting any volume and you're sending hundreds or even thousands of emails a month, then that very quickly climbs up to be like $30 to $50, easily $50 a month, just validating emails. But it's necessary. And when you do it via automation, it saves you so much time. Email sending tools always come with a cost. So the good ones can be around $50 a month per inbox. So as soon as you're adding inboxes, then that becomes $100 or $150 a month, and the cost can climb quite quickly. There's different LinkedIn automations that will send connections for you. They would like and comment on people's posts. They can send follow-up messages once that person is connected, and there's varying tools that allow you to do that. So anywhere from $15 a month for some of the more cost-effective tools, and it can go right up to $100 a month for some of the more sophisticated tools. And then you can automate zaps and workflows. And what that means essentially is if somebody books a call, it could log that data into your CRM. So that's usually just like a zap or an automated kind of workflow. And that can save you time from manually entering a person's lead data into your CRM if you just zap it, and it's just an automation that goes straight into your CRM. So these are just some of the automation tools that I've tried. Now, and you can see that quickly stacks up. And I would say conservatively, it could become $200 a month if you're just validating emails, have maybe 1 or 2 email sending inboxes, and maybe try a LinkedIn automation tool. And then obviously, if you're going to go with AI personalized lines and images and a couple of inboxes and LinkedIn automation, it quickly escalates, and you could be spending $400 or $500 a month or more. Right? So it's kind of the sky's the limit on what you could be spending here. However, what automation can't do, and this is critical, is it can't create the target list of leads. So what automation can do is scrape leads. If you created a list in LinkedIn, it could quickly scrape that list and find everyone's email address. But it's the creation of the list that you need a human to do, to be inputting queries and variables into different search tools like LinkedIn Sales Navigator or other search databases, and actually compiling the lists of leads. Of course, you can automate the lead validation, but then the researching and creating the personalized messages is just something that an automation tool can't do. It can do it to a degree. So those AI personalized line generators can do it to a degree, but as soon as you want something that's a little bit more in-depth, then automation, can't. It's kind of limited at that point. So automation can send LinkedIn and email campaigns, but you still need a human to set them up. So taking the script, importing the leads, setting up and pressing go on a lot of the automation campaigns. So that's just something that you have to manually do. And of course, replying to messages. Most automation tools, as soon as a reply comes back, the automation stops, which is what you want. You want a human to then take over and handle the conversation and book the call and follow up those leads. That's not something that a bot can do intelligently. All of that considered, I've listed here below that a VA could be around $400 to $500 a month. So that price point is at $2.50 to $3 an hour, which is quite a reasonable rate of pay for a university educated, fluent English speaking assistant from places like India, the Philippines, Venezuela, Pakistan, places like that. So let's look at what a virtual assistant could do. Obviously, they could fully replace an automation tool. So they can do things that the automation might otherwise do, such as list validation or auto sending messages, liking and commenting on posts, things like that. But they can also add elements that the automation cannot do. So you don't necessarily need to reject all automation. You could be using automation and getting your VA to be setting up the campaigns and launching the campaigns and then handling the replies. I still get my VA to clean my list through an automation tool that, is a bulk list validator. So you can combine them, get them to do the elements and piece the pieces of the automation together. You can get them to link the pieces of automation together in those blocks of work. But most importantly, they can humanize the outreach. So they can see something that's a little bit amiss and they can personalize it. So for example, they're not going to address someone by their surname instead of their first name. So a VA can humanize your outreach, and they can also pick errors either before they happen or shortly after they happen. So they can be addressing people by their correct name and fixing little typos and things that might happen. And then, of course, they can reply intelligently according to a script, but intelligently with correct English to inquiries. And all in all, a VA would cost similar or slightly more than an automation. Of course, they can work with the automation, or they could fully replace the automation. And they're essentially just vastly more cost effective than a full-time domestic staff member. Ultimately, I think you can tell I'm a big fan of using virtual assistants, is that they really truly free you up to be the CEO of your company. They let you handle your client work, focus on things like creating content, leading your team, and all the important things. So I've actually created quite a lot of training about hiring and managing $3 an hour virtual assistants. And I've got one called How to Use $3 an hour virtual assistants to book you 40 calls a month. So just look above this video around and see if you can find that training and have a look at that. That covers a lot of the logistics of how you can acquire a virtual assistant. Essentially, what I've covered in this training is for you if you're a B2B consultancy with a proven offer, if you're currently getting clients via SEO, paid ads, or referrals, if your decision makers are on LinkedIn and findable via cold email, if you're able to handle sales calls or have a sales rep or internal BD, and if you want more leads via LinkedIn and cold email, then I want you to think about what it would be like if you could send 30 LinkedIn connection requests every day and personalize them, and personalize the follow-ups as well. You can have somebody liking and commenting on posts and interacting with your ideal client. That person could also find and validate emails for you so that they could send 30 personalized emails each day and then also follow them up intelligently. Just doing that is 1,800 touch points with up to 600 leads every single month. And that's just conservative. That's just the start. With a 4% positive reply rate, if you're targeting the right leads and you're personalizing that intelligently and you have an offer message that's appealing, then you could be booking up to 24 calls a month. And if you can add another LinkedIn profile, or you could add more email inboxes, or if you could exceed the LinkedIn limit of 100 leads a month, which you can do if you have the right know-how, then you could easily get, instead of 600 leads a month, that's 1,200 leads with a 4% booking rate is now 48 calls a month, and so on and so forth. So you can see how this process would quickly stack up. So if you're interested in installing your own VA, this is something that I can help you with. It can help you with all of the optimization of your social profile, the building of the LinkedIn and cold email strategy. And that would include who are you targeting and what are you saying to them? What's the message and the script and the whole campaign design? Then I can give you all the SOP templates, so the standard operating procedures, which is basically the guides and instructions for a VA. That would be for all LinkedIn and all email tasks. That would cover everything from setting up, launching, and monitoring your campaigns. I'm there to help you systemize and streamline all of that process, including follow-up. And part of the service is to help you recruit, shortlist, hire, and manage your VA to humanize your outreach. A lot of those SOPs cover different automation tools. So if you want to work with an automation instead of replacing an automation, you can. Or if you want to fully replace automation just with your VA and have them manually doing a lot of those things, you can as well. And essentially what I'm able to do is help you troubleshoot any problems with your VA. So if they leave or if they're underperforming, that's something that I'm available to help out with. What you could expect if you were to work with me is anywhere between 5 to 40 leads per month. So why 5? It's really dependent on your niche and your offer. So if you're selling a 5K retainer, that's very different to selling a 100K deal that might cover 18 months. So I think we can expect that conversations for a 100K deal might take more time and more lead nurture. So that's why we would say between 5 to 40 conversations a month, entirely dependent on your niche. And we can exceed 40 if you're in the right market. What you could also expect is a fully hired and trained VA. You could receive all SOPs, scripts, tools, trackers, and reporting documents. With working with me is fully personalized coaching and a done with you campaign design and optimization. Work together typically for about 3 months, but we fully support you and your VA for up to 1 year, and with full replacement if they leave. And ultimately, you get an accountability partner of someone who's going to help you scale your outbound prospecting. So if this is something that is interesting to you, please add me on LinkedIn, Jen Bishop Consulting. Follow me at jenbishopconsulting.com, message me on Facebook, send me an email at jen@jenbishopconsulting.com, or just comment on this video below and reach out. I'd love to talk to you about how you could be using automation better, how you could be using a VA with your automation, and ultimately how you can free yourself up from a lot of those systems and processes while also improving the optimization of your campaigns, the messaging, positioning, targeting, and everything that you're doing so that you can start booking those 5 to 40 calls a month and be just filling up your pipeline with leads. So that brings us to the end of the training. I look forward to talking to you really soon and also look forward to seeing you in the next training video. Thank you.